Right, good morning, everybody, and thank you for your interest in Showbiz Timecards and media services. Again, for anybody who has that option right here, you do have the option to listen to your speakers on your computer if you wish. Just make sure you go to Control Panel and select it that way. Otherwise, just use the phone like you're probably doing right now. By the way, I'm recording the session, so if any of you have to leave a little early, no problem at all. We'll make it available probably later today. We also have older webinars that can be watched at any time as well. During the presentation, if you ever have any questions, feel free to do that. What you'll do is you'll type your questions. In fact, in your GoToWebinar, there should be a screen that pops up usually on the left-hand side unless you've moved it. There's a section where you can go actually type in questions. What we'll do is I would like you to type those questions in. I will read them aloud for everybody, and I'll go over the answer, and then that way everybody will benefit from understanding what the question is. All right, so let me go ahead and give you a little insight. My name is Roger Jones. I am actually one of the developers of the program, along with another gentleman named Otter. We also have a great team of support. They actually have been helping you for many years. Showbiz Timecards is used by every studio in the industry, whether it's for television and or now features as well. We have a lot of big features using the program as well. And I'm going to go over why so many people love the program so much. Well, first of all, let me actually go to our website. We are part of the Media Services family. Let me give you a little insight about what some of the things that we offer you, because you may not realize that. So first of all, media-services.com is our website. If you go to payroll, we are the payroll of record for a lot of different places, a lot of different studios, a lot of different shows. Feel free to take a look through the various things that we offer, including if you're interested in a free quote, you can click on there and somebody will get in contact with you. Accounting division, we have a fantastic accounting division. I actually was with that accounting division for many years, and if you do need actual people to, you want to hire somebody that actually can do your production accounting for your show, contact them as well. Residuals, we have fantastic residuals. Again, if you're interested in any of our residuals, go through the different facets here or request a quote. Tools, we'll go back to tools in a moment. Healthcare, ACA has become a very complicated way of, it's become more complicated in the last couple of years, so we can help you with that. So feel free to contact us about any things here. And again, click on the various links here to be able to go over any questions you might have. Incentives, we have an incentives map on the website and a person you can contact, so go to there. Another thing that's really cool, a lot of people don't realize it, is there's an answer section. In this answer section, you can literally go in and just type in a question, and it will find criteria across our entire website, because maybe you're not sure where I should ask this question. It will do a search and find our website. And that would be helpful to you, because that way this is available for payroll customers and non-payroll customers alike. So feel free to use this ability, this answer section. So going back to our tools section, we have, there's the payroll tools, showing things about mobile time cards, which of course that is a separate webinar that we do. There is the Showbiz Timecards, which of course we'll be going over here, but there's also other things besides Showbiz Timecards. We offer Showbiz Budgeting. We have a free labor guide that's online. Instead of that book, now it's online and it's free. Anybody can get to it. We're signing up for free. The crew cards, the SAG cards, we also have something called PC Envelope, Cash Flow, Shark, and there's something called Shot Logic. So feel free to take a look at any of those programs. The programs do offer trial versions that fully work. Down below that is the support page. On the support page, let me click on that. That actually is where you can contact myself or my team. Here are our hours. There's an after emergency support line if you do need it. There's also something that's kind of handy too, is right now you're watching me, right? You're watching what I'm doing on the screen. You can actually go watch video tutorials for all of our programs, including our crew cards have been completely redone. A couple of months ago, we went back and we redid them for version 13, which is the most recent version of the program that you'll be finding on our website. If you go down, you can see it's broken down into various topics. So for anybody, and this is something that a lot of people like to do, is after this webinar, they might like to go back in and review some of these and go over these individually. especially if, of course, if you're new, which is, again, today is the introductory class. So you can go with the various aspects of the program, including all the way down into something that we normally ever do about 3 months, which is the hot cost advanced webinar. There's information down there. But again, if you scroll to the top, you'll notice something about this. This is right below the very top, how to download and install. There is our webinars. In fact, this is last month's webinar, actually it's 2 months ago for the Crew Cards introductory. Here's the advanced one. So if you want to jump right over to advanced, you can do that instead of waiting, because we only do the advanced about every 3 months. And then I will be doing a little demonstration, but if you are interested in same-day edits, you can also watch that video tutorial as well. So another thing that's nice about our programs, if you go back to the tool section, you go back to Showbiz Software, if you go to, say, for example, the Crew Cards program, click on that. Take you to a website. There's a bunch of information about, how to get various parts of the program. If you scroll a little bit, you'll see where you can actually purchase it. We're actually having a sale right now. If you have any current version of Showbiz 9, 10, or 11, you can upgrade to 13 for free. If you already have 12, it is already free. So take advantage of that. But yeah, it's $199 for the upgrade, which is a lot cheaper than the introductory price. Normally, it's $50 off. So feel free to take advantage of that right now while we're offering it. There's also a bundle which saves you money too. But further down, if you like, go down a little bit further and there's an option to click to get a free trial. The free trial actually works unrestricted for 10 days. There is no restriction. It works fully. In fact, here's the nice thing about the trial is when you do purchase the product, we will unlock that version that you downloaded. You do not need to reinstall. You will not lose any of the data that you've entered already. So that's the nice thing about this, is if you want to go ahead and get started and get in there before getting this paid for, not a problem. Go ahead and download the trial. Of course, today you can go ahead and do that right after this webinar and play with the program, because we realize that a lot of people, if you're with the studio will probably supply it to you or will give you instructions on how to purchase it. However, the interesting thing is a lot of times maybe you're between a show right now. It's summertime. Shows are starting to gear up right now. Maybe you'll be starting in maybe later in July or early August. No problem. Go ahead and download the program. Play with it for now. Make sure you're comfortable with it, and then when you start the job, you'll be comfortable in using the program. And that's why we do the trial version. All right. So feel free to take advantage of that. And of course, in this page, of course, there's also how to install if you need some help with that, or you can contact us at our support page if you do need some assistance with installations. All right, so let me jump right over to the program so you can see it here. Now, when you first open the program, of course, it will ask you need to unlock it. You can use the trial version. This is actually the screen that shows up afterwards. Now, one thing that's nice about this is notice a couple of things. One is we do have a couple of options. We have a union show, a non-union show, and a wider show, and something called Hot Cost Reporter. The Hot Cost Reporter, of course, I go into on the advanced webinars, so you can watch that afterwards if you want to actually learn more about that. There's also a little screen in here, and sometimes they're advertisements. Sometimes they're actually information that's good for you to know. Like, hey, we have a new version out. Or one time we even had an opportunity where somebody was looking for a payroll person in New York, and they desperately needed somebody immediately. We put that in the window, and lo and behold, within a few hours, we got a lot of different calls and people that were looking for work, and that person got that job. I guess it was perfect. So always feel to take a look in here just to see if there's something important for you to take a look at. All right. So first of all, you can choose which one you want. I'll show you what they are. I'm going to choose non-union show. If I click into it, a lot of people go, well, what does this mean? It's basically this data, and you can see there's already some data here that I've already pre-entered. This data is specifically geared towards non-union. It has certain things taken out of it or certain things put into it that are specific to non-union time cards. Now, you can switch between non-union. The top corner will let you switch, by the way. This is a button. It will let you switch between union-wide. And union-wide essentially is all the fields and all the fun stuff about union, but we've added a much wider episode. We mainly did this because many different animation studios joined us in the last couple of years, and they have a much wider episode field. Now, you feel free to use this one if you like it. I tend to kind of like the look of it. Even if you're not using a very wide episode, it's fine. You can use it. It works just fine. The other option, if I click it again, is the standard union. The standard union, again, it's pretty much, again, just like the wide. It's geared towards union. There's union fields in it. However, the episode field is not as wide. Okay, so that's the basics of that opening screen. Now, a lot of what you're going to be dealing with the program is along this top bar here. Yes, there are things in the drop-downs up on top through the context menu, whether it's Mac or PC. And by the way, the program works just fine in both Mac and PC. We have it working now just fine in the Sierra operating system. We also have it working fine in Windows 10. We also have the ability to, for some people who have been having troubles with the older versions, we used to use something called FileMaker 11, and we still do. Because a lot of people maybe have an older computer. It's a rented computer. It's a 32-bit operating system. If those of you who are not familiar with that, we can help you find that information out. But nevertheless, your computer, sometimes people have older 32-bit operating system, Windows, and even sometimes Mac. And we're going to give you an older version, which is based on FileMaker 11, because that seems to work best for you. However, if you're working with Windows 10 and you have a brand new machine, or maybe you have a Mac OS, we're going to give you a FileMaker 16 version. That 16 version is amazingly good. It's very fast. It's much better than we've been playing with FileMaker 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and they weren't quite as good. 16 actually is very good and works really well if you have a 64-bit machine. Again, most of those machines are fairly new, last couple of years, but again, if you have any questions about that, contact us and we can help you out to make sure you get the right version. All right. So again, going to this top bar, most of the things you'll be clicking on are right up here. So worksheet, worksheet list. Now, worksheet is actually where you fill out a time card. You fill out the information about the person, you enter their hours, you check meal penalties, allowances, and then hit calculate. Okay? Down below that is the worksheet list. Worksheet list is literally, think of it like books on a bookshelf, or maybe if you were to take all your time cards and stack them up as if like maybe they were a book, right? And they had a little index on each side, right? When you look for a book, you can see on the spine the name, the author, something about the book that's important, right? This is very similar to that. You can actually grab a particular time card. I will go in a little bit later to show you how you can sort, and you can actually grab a time card out by the search function we have in the program. Now, next to that is card list. Card list is basically the same thing as worksheet list, except what we didn't want you to do is, all these are different fields, right? These are different criteria. We didn't want to have to make you scroll too far to the left and right by lots and lots of things that were going on. So what we did is there's different criteria in the card list that's not in the worksheet list. For example, department is something that is in this list that is not in the other list. Your work location is in this list, which is not in the other one. But you'll find certain things like names, the date, certain things like that. You'll find out, for example, worksheet list has most of your new, we have a new chart of account structure. This has actually been since version 12, but for those who are new to even 12 or 13, we actually show you the episode, the detail, the subset, and the free. We also show you other things as well. So again, use the worksheet list and the card list based upon what you're trying to use it for, which is usually finding and or getting a time card. Okay? Above that is time card itself. Time card is now, this is what's nice about this, we have a whole bunch of time cards. There are a lot of different options here. The ones on the top are generally more limited. They're older, they're for non-union. In fact, sometimes when people will say, hey, I would like to see some of the new fields in my chart of accounts showing up, you're going to want to go to the ones up towards the bottom. I would usually suggest around 15, 14, somewhere in there, maybe 13. 13 is pretty good actually too. Start going towards 13 and higher, and I'll show you the new splitter function. You're going to want to use those splitter ones as well. Most of those are towards the bottom. In fact, the interesting thing that you'll find is a lot of people have been asking for certain fields and certain changes. So every new version, we may add a new few time cards. So always feel free to look at the newer time cards, because the newer ones may suit your needs because they're based on what other customers have asked for. So chances are you may be benefiting from their request as well. All right, so yeah, and all you need to do is just go down and choose it, and voila. In fact, 18, by the way, tends to be one that a lot of people like. It's very clean, it's straightforward, it has lots of lines if you have to do a lot of splitting. Okay, going right back to the worksheet. Now, let me break the worksheet down a little bit for you so you understand, because there's a lot of stuff going on here. But once you understand how things are working, it'll be easy. All right, so this first section right in here is a section really about the person. So we put their information in, we put their Social Security, a start date. Now, here's something that's nice about the Social Security too. Social Security, you can enter as little or as much as you want, okay? You can enter the last 4 digits if you prefer. That's fine. And actually, that's fine if that's what's good for you. The program, on the other hand, if you notice, here, I'll put a full. Notice one thing too when I tab out of it, notice how it automatically put the dashes in. If you're used to typing in the dashes, that's fine. You will not double dash. It'll automatically put in the appropriate numbers for you, okay? So once I put that in there, look what happens when I actually go back to the time card. Notice how in this time card, I have by default, this is our default setting, only the last 4 digits. The reason why is the law that came out in January of 2008 said that you should only be showing the last 4 digits when it's not in a secure environment, i.e. when you're printing it or you're showing it, right? If you're in a production office, usually a production accounting office, that's a secure environment. So it's up to you if you want to put the full social in. If you do, that's fine. I've seen some people put in like zeros and stuff like that. That's up to you as well. Most payroll companies are fine if you just enter the last 4 digits because that's what they use to match up against the name, just to confirm. Usually if there's somebody like maybe a Paul Arnold Jr., for example, right, we have to make sure that it's the right Social Security number because he might be a junior. And it may not be prevalent from right up on top here, right? Unless, of course, you put in junior here, which would help you. But nevertheless, that's how that works with a Social Security number. If you don't want to put anything at all, it will warn you at least to put in a dash. And go ahead and do that. If you're not going to put anything at all, just put a dash in. But just letting you know, most of the payroll companies have preferred at least putting something in there, and the last 4 digits are clean and it's safe because those are not unique as much as the numbers towards the front. All right? So start date. Skip over to that. Start date, it literally pops up a menu. You can move, for example, I should pull this up to today, or maybe it was yesterday. Now, start date is one of the fields, and there's quite a few of them in the program. Don't feel intimidated because there's a lot of different fields here, right? And you think, oh, do I have to use this? No, you don't. In fact, let me switch over to non-union view just real quick. So, because I want to start here, actually, start with a non-union view because it's a little simpler. But do you have to enter the start date? No, you don't. However, it is helpful to you and to your payroll person for one important reason. Anybody? Anybody? Start paperwork. Start paperwork is important because, you have to get that start paperwork in, right, to be able to process this time card. So I think it's a good thing to put in there, but you don't have to. In fact, the program will even tell you if you're missing something important. So feel free to, leave things out if it's not important to you. Direct deposit's another one of those. So you can leave it blank or just say yes if it's a direct deposit. Again, these are fields that are needed for maybe your payroll, but maybe not somebody else's, or vice versa. Now, department, position, these are blank when we first give it to you. Originally, we used to fill them out, but some people said, well, I want caps. No, I don't want caps. I want, maybe instead of typing out production, I wanted a shorter version of it. But here's something that's nice about it. If I type in, I just typed in PR. What it did in the drop-down is it went right down to production. And it found it immediately for me. And now I can just hit enter and move forward. And see if I type in, for example, let me say if I have producer in here. And see, I don't, okay? So that's okay. What I can do is click in there. And, of course, normally be blank. But I can just go ahead there and type in producer. And now, once I've added that, it's available on every other time card. It's what we call an additive menu. It's a drop-down menu that you add to. Now, some people even like to do what's called a template and have these already pre-made. I'll go into that a little bit later, but yes, you can actually do that too. All right. So here we do have the non-union as the default. It's the very, very top, but there are options in here. And again, we are on the non-union time card, but you'll see it's more prevalent when we're actually doing union. Loan out company and the Fed ID, of course, if you are indeed dealing with somebody who's a loan out, the Fed ID, we put that right up on top. So yeah, feel free to enter that up there. All right, now, picture project, city, state, production company, stuff like that. You can enter it in, but what you can do that's really handy is you can say copy job. What this does is when I make a new time card, which is right here, I can hit paste job. And see what it did? It actually grabbed the name of the show, the location I'm shooting, the production company, my payroll company. It also grabs the week ending. So if you don't want the week ending, some people, this is smart because you can actually blank out this one and do it copy again. And now when I do a new time card, it will not show that week ending. It's kind of handy because, again, this is something that's actually not a memory. You know, a lot of times when you hit copy on a lot of programs, when you shut the program down or you shut the computer down, it goes away. No, in our program, the copies hold permanently until you make a change. We do this because it makes it much easier for you to do data entry. So when you're entering a blank time card, you're going to hit that, you know, that copy job and then paste job because it makes it faster for you to enter the time card information. If something changes, change it and make a new copy. But that copy will hold forevermore until you make it again. Okay? Now the copies and paste in the program are all separate too. So if you copy from here, it will not copy and paste into another part of the program. So it is separate and unique. All right, so if we can see if we can go back to, I can go back to this card, that's fine. Doesn't matter which one we go to. All right, so going back to this time card, we've got that information on top. Now below that is something called the ACA, Affordable Care Act, of course. That information is right in here. Go ahead and if you want to use it, you can choose the various things like the full, what type of time they are, full-time, part-time, variable, seasonal. Of course, always consult your payroll person or your payroll company about this information. They may be tracking it separately, but yes, for your, we put it in there because it actually is very helpful to you, and it's also helpful to our payroll company as well. So you can put the email address. Again, you can put a termination date. Now, mostly this is important for non-union people because then their benefits might end on a particular date, so you can put that in that they're done. It'll let your payroll person know that, of course, they're finished, and we should be terminating those benefits, perhaps if they're getting benefits. There's also unpaid leave. Some states, like the state of California, New York, and I think some others are also pending legislation where there is a certain amount of leave that you can go unpaid but still be employed, and you can go ahead and put that in there if that's important to you. All right, over to the side here, and let me zoom out just a little bit. And by the way, if you ever want to zoom in and out of the program, very bottom corner, you can click that little button and it zooms out, okay? It is a little small on the screen here, that's okay, but I want you to see something here. So on the top right here, this is notes printed on the time card. So we zoom back in again. These notes, whatever I type in here, these notes will actually go on to one of the time cards. And you'll see that right there. There's notes right there, okay? So that note's important because you want somebody to see it, whether it's maybe your UPM, maybe it's one of the producers who's is maybe taking a look at these time cards, or it's your coordinator here at Media Services, that or a coordinator wherever, right? Other payroll companies. You want them to see why you're doing something. I had to make a change. I had to do this. There's a special note that I want you to do. What this does is it prevents a phone call between you, or maybe if in an email. Sometimes I've seen. I remember myself when I was doing payroll. You would usually type in an email a whole dissertation about this guy gets paid this way and this lady gets paid that way, blah blah blah. Right? You don't have to do that anymore. You can do it directly on the time card. Type in there, type the information they need to know, and then that way, if there's still a question, they can call you. Otherwise, nope, I got it, understand that note, perfect, that made sense, and now you don't have to spend extra time dealing with that. And again, that's the one thing that's nice about Showbiz Timecards is you're trying to save some time, right? So that's why it's important now. Notes to self is right in here. If you are actually You want something that's maybe more sensitive information, you can type that in here. Nobody will see it, only you or somebody who has access to the program. Okay? And again, like zooming back out a little bit, I want you to see something that is fairly new. If you are a media services payroll customer and are using mobile, we actually are right now experimenting with a mobile time card import that'll go from Showbiz Timecards or Showbiz Mobile time cards into Showbiz Timecards. So if you're interested in that, contact your salesperson and they can help you with that. But yes, there is a function that we're actually doing that with a mobile, capturing mobile information online and then putting it into Showbiz Timecards. So, all right. Now, going through that, down here is the section how you pay the person, right? So first of all, you come in here and you say hourly, daily, weekly. I've already set this person up, but I mean, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna hit clear here because I want to do something simple. I want to do a weekly person. And let's start with a weekly because those are quite easy to do usually. All right, so let's do a weekly. Want to put a weekly rate. We'll say this person is $5,000 a week. Now this splitter is something that is fairly new. It's been on 12 and 13, but let me explain it to you, and I'll show you why it is a huge improvement over previous versions of Showbiz, like version 10 and 9. So what the splitter is, it's a description. It's why you are splitting, okay? Now I'm going to do a split in a few minutes just so you know, but I'll show you how you can split very complicated ways. Something that used to be very difficult is super simple in Showbiz. So your COA, you can put it in. COA is, again, your chart of accounts or your labor account, whatever you want. You can enter as little or as much as you want in here. This is your location. This is your job or episode number. This is your labor account usually, right? There's a sub. Now, I don't have it in here, but if you want to change these things, you can. Just make sure it says, if you want to do, okay, go to forms. And this little thing right here, normally, by the way, it is set. It is normally production, detail, subset free, but it can be changed. You can change this. Say you're not using a sub. Maybe you want to change this and say, you can even change this texting prod epi if you want to say production or episode, whatever you want. The detail can be, you can say labor. I've seen some people do that. It's up to you. Most payroll companies will deal with this, calling it prod epi, detail, subset, or free. But again, if you're not using a sub, we could drop that out and we could do the set here instead. And we could do something like, if you're doing a lot of tax incentives, maybe you want to do a free field 1 and a free field 2 because you're separating out two different kinds of free field tax incentives, breaking out things. Maybe a local one and a state one, okay? So there we go. You put that in there, and then when you go back to the program, now the program is dynamically changed. Now, one thing that's also important to know, if you are a media services payroll customer, please contact us because we'll make sure that whatever you set up, probably for Media Web, right, that it matches our system so that it goes directly into our payroll system properly. Because I'm going to show you that a little bit later, but yes, there is a way to take Showbiz Timecards and go directly into our payroll system. All right, so that's enough about that. So change whatever you want in there. I do not need anything here, hourly rate, box. I can put a box in, but I'm going to do that when we do an hourly person. So there is already an overtime schedule. You can take it out. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't hurt you on a weekly person. Normally it wouldn't be in there. Of course, I have an existing time card, but that's okay. I'm just letting you know it doesn't hurt you to have it there. Because ultimately this person is weekly, then they're what's considered flat or exempt from wage and hour law. In other words, they don't get overtime. Okay, so here's a little shortcut here. If I come in, click Worked, what the program is designed to do is the standard work week of Monday through Friday. It's a one-button push. Again, it's another shortcut that I mentioned that makes it easier for you. Click the button, then I can hit Magic Pay, and there's the nice thing. Immediately it goes and updates the total, even if there was something there before. In fact, that's the nice thing about Magic Pay is if you make a mistake, you forget something, just hit Magic Pay again, it will correct it. So for example, you know what, I forgot. This person actually did get a 6th day, and I'm going to put in Worked there. And again, you could have done that manually. The Worked button on top just does the 5 days automatically for you. There are other options in the flats. In fact, the nice thing about the flats is they're not 100% flat. There are all kinds of different options in here. In fact, when you go to the union section, there's even more. So take a look through theirs because there might be something in there that's helpful for non-union as well, sorry, for hourly as well. Another thing that's also down here too, this is turned on. This is auto 6th and 7th day. So let me show you how that works. If I click on this, it automatically said, oh right, 6 continuous days, and auto flat, what we do is we say, normally say it's time and a half their rate. Now if I put another day so you can see what happens if, say for example, we had a 7-day work week, right? There we go. It's double time their rate because that's common for a lot of people's deals. Now, there is an adjustment that you can do here. If you don't want it to automatically choose the 6th and 7th days, perhaps in this person's flat deal, that the associate producer, you know what, they get time and a half on 6th and 7th days. So instead of choosing 6th and 7th, you just say 6th and you say 6th, okay? Because that's time and a half their rate. And there we go. That now did time and a half, 1.5 1,000, 2 times that, 3,000, done, right? Another option you can do is maybe they don't get any 6th and 7th day. They get a prorated $1,000 a day. That's okay. There you go. That's that one. Say, for example, they don't get any proration at all. It doesn't matter how many days they work, whether it's 5, 6, or 7, they still get paid that same $5,000. You're going to go up to this right up here where this is flat. In other words, is it 6-day contract? Is it a 7-day contract, right? You click on that, and now it goes right back to 5,000. It all depends on your deal, but the program is very flexible that you can just change it to what you want. And by the way, that 6th and 7th day is automatically turned on. You can turn it off by just choosing that. Another option that you might want to consider too is, say for example, something like this happened. Maybe this Sunday was a continuous week from last week. In other words, we worked Saturday and Friday and a couple days last week, and it was a 6th day because it was continuous 6th day. You can do that. They get 1 day off, and then that's enough. They get 1 day off. Now that they're off for that 1 day, good. Now they worked another 5 continuous days, so they don't get a 6th day down here, but they do get the 6th day from the last week. So all you need to do is just go into the day type, choose that, hit Magic Pay, and it still does that same function of saying it's time and a half for that 1 day. Good, because that's from the previous week, but I still have 5 continuous days. So you can see, again, you want to turn that auto function off to do this. But yes, that's the beauty of this. The program can be completely flexible to your needs. All right, and again, if you make a mistake and you wanted to say clear, and I want to go back to that standard where you hit Magic Pay, see how I'm hitting Magic Pay again? It's always correcting. That's the nice thing. There's never, if simple mistakes, I forgot something, not a problem. Go in, change what you need to do, and hit Magic Pay, and it will update the total. Okay, so that's a simple weekly contract. Now, what's the big difference between that and the daily? Not too much, except one thing. The daily, there's still going to be work because daily it's a daily flat contract. Again, you have the same functionality as far as the chart of accounts and stuff like that. You enter worked, not a problem, but what you do that's different is you don't want a weekly rate. In fact, I can leave that weekly rate if I want to, but the main reason I'm doing them as a daily is either it's truly a daily contract, or I want to say, look, 1 day they're getting one rate, and another day they're getting another rate. So what I'll do is I'll come here to this first day, say my daily rate, I'll say it's 1,000, right? That's what we were using before. So I come down to the second job, and it copies the information down. Now, you can change things. You can change the episode. You can change the account code. You can change the set, free fields, whatever you want. In this case, I want to change the rate. We'll just say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That rate is now a re-rate for a different day. And now, this is why you want to use a splitter. Now, again, you notice how that the first one has a dash in it. That's because we're really not using it for any reason. Now, you can, if you want to, put a description in there, but usually what you do is when you're splitting it, that's why you want to put your reason in. And you can just say simple, it's a re-rate. Type in whatever you want. If it's a different job, then that's fine. You could put in the different job and put maybe the different episode too. But let me do the re-rate first. So we'll just say it's re-rate. The only thing you have to do now is you have to tell the program what day or days do they re-rate. And I'll say, you know what? It's Friday. Now I can drag. I'm clicking the left mouse and I'm holding it and dropping it. Now, can I type it in? Absolutely. You can type. I could have typed in the re-rate just as easily. The reason why I do re-rate is I'll show you a little bit later. When you're doing a lot of splitting, it's a lot easier to do it that way. So now the program is now saying, right, this day is going to be this amount, right? Click. Now it's doing it for you. And it even tells you that. And again, in that time card, if I go to one of the newer time cards, it even tells me, along with the rest of the COA, that that is a re-rate day. So that is why the new version of splitting is much more efficient. We used to use in the episode, you put a dash or a star. That's not very efficient because, number one, when people were looking at the time cards, they're going, what does that dash and star mean? Especially like when you're dealing with the producers. They're like, well, why did they get that? Oh, it's a re-rate day. Now I understand because it's clear on the splitter, right? So yeah, a lot of times what you had to do is when you put the dashes and stars and stuff like that, you had to put in the notes and did everybody see the notes? So we came up with a much better way in version 12. And of course now we're in 13. In fact, I'm actually showing you 13K. 13K is available right now on the website. Again, for anybody who has an earlier version, if you like version 13, 13K is free. In fact, a lot of times the unlock code will work just fine. If you're on an older version than that, just contact us and we'll help you get to the latest version. And if you need to purchase it, that's fine too. So again, we can help you with all that. All right, so re-rate makes it nice and simple. All right. So again, that's on a flat. That's the only reason why you necessarily want to do somebody who's a daily. Notice how I still have the weekly rate in there, but the program definitely pulls from what the program. So in other words, it's a daily. This is daily. That's where it's going to pull from. In fact, you might want to leave it in there because normally this is really a regular weekly contract, but in this case, they're daily for 1,000. They're daily for 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it. Makes sense. All right. So what is the difference between this and an hourly employee? Well, a couple things. First of all, remember, those two people, those two types of contracts are considered exempt from wage and hour law. So I'm going to drop some of these things out because we don't need them anymore. You want to do a couple things. First of all, you want to make sure you put in their hourly rates. Little trick about the hourly rate, by the way. Most of your union rates will actually go to 2 decimals. Now, you're going to hit a situation where maybe the producer will come to you and say, well, I want to pay this person, $800 for, 5 days work, and they're working 12-hour days. So what you have to do is you have to back into the rate. You have to figure it out in pay hours, right? Figure it out in pay hours, divide it up, and if you ever need help with that, just let us know. It's not too difficult. Most of you probably know how to deal with pay hours. That's fine. But what happens, though, is you don't want to do 2 decimals when you're doing that, right? You want to get it to be the max. You want to have to pay this person because this person is not exempt from wage and hour law, and you have to pay them an hourly rate. So if you do that, make sure you do. I would do, 4 does it pretty good. If you go out and when you're calculating your rates, do 4. But even better, do the 5th decimal, and you will get to the penny. In fact, a lot of people will say, well, I'm trying to back into this rate, try to get the rate, so I'm complying with wage and hour law, making sure that they're an hourly person, but it's not quite matching up. That's why. Make sure that when you're calculating this out, use those extra decimals. The program will take it. But you don't need to do 4 is good, but that penny will round. If you don't want the penny to round, use the 5th decimal, and the program will calculate based on that, and you will get more accurate results when you get Magic Pay, by the way, too. Okay? Again, union don't need to do that. This is only because we're trying to comply with wage and hour law, paying that person an hourly rate, but still trying to pay that, that amount of $800 for the 12 hours per day times 5 days. Fair enough. So again, I'm going to clear this here because I want to do a second thing that's unique, which is I need to enter hours. We do it in military because everybody's used to military in the industry, so we'll do it that way. So 8, 14, 15, 21. Here we go. There's a full day. If you do have dinner, you can add those in there as well. It's up to you. If you have a longer day, you can add those in. Essentially, they'll be deducting. Those are deducting from the day. They're deducting from, it's the lunchtime, right? So they took an hour lunch. Good to go. All right, so I got a 12-hour day and good. Now, here's a little shortcut to help you out. Maybe this person works the same hours every day. Copy one day, paste, 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 paste. And if there's an adjustment on one day, that's not a problem. I'll say, well, they went to 25 on this one day. Done. All right. So now we've got that in there. Now we've got, it's a longer day, no problem. Now, the program, luckily, already has an overtime schedule in it. But if you, I'll show you what happens if it doesn't. And this is blank in here. It's because you need one. So, for example, if you come in here, click in California State, there's the rules. That's the rules I actually had. And see how what it does? It automatically breaks down. 8 hours of straight time, 4 hours of time and a half. And see on this one day, they got double time because that's what happens in California. They have, after the 12th hour, minus the lunch, of course, they actually have double time owed to them. Time and a half after 8 hours. And the program automatically does it as long as you choose the right schedule. Now, say, for example, I'm in another state, non-union New York, for example. Click on that. The program is different. In fact, ironically, of all the states that we have, 40 of them have this rule. They're called Fed 40 law, okay? Where basically what happens is you can work them as many hours as you want, but after the 40th continuous, you have to pay them at time and a half for the rest of the week. So what happens here, you can see is we've hit 40 hours cumulatively here, and after that now we're doing time and a half for the rest of the week. So anybody who's dealing with any of those states, it's as simple as clicking the button and it'll do it for you. There is no double time in that state, or those Fed 40 states. In fact, ironically, state of California is the only one that currently has a double time rule for non-union people. There are some states that are Fed 40, but there's still a daily amount, which is 8. For example, Nevada does this. And so what happens with them is they still have a day, but if you go over, again, say for example this day, see how it's a longer day? That's okay, it's still paid at time and a half. But yes, still the Fed 40 law is still applicable, it's okay, because it's 8 hours daily. There are a couple of states that do 10 and 12, they're rare, I think there's only 1 or 2 of each of those. But here, if you ever want to know what your non-union state law is, click on this bottom. It goes to a website, and this is actually by the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor actually updates this, and they also do something that's kind of handy too. In fact, they've just done it, which is nice. They've updated the minimum wage laws, which is another thing that can help you. Because if you want to go to, for example, Nevada, I just mentioned Nevada, right? They have an 8 and 40, but it also makes sure that if you are paying, make sure you're paying minimum wage so that you're complying by that law as well. That can help you a lot, especially for like maybe your PAs and stuff like that. And you want to make sure you at least comply with the state law because they change usually every 6 months. So always take a look at that again. Just go right in the program. It'll take you right to the website right there. All right, so perfect. There's that there. All right, so going back to the program again. All right, so we got that down. Now, another thing you'll see that, I'll take it back to California. I'm assuming most of you are probably from California, but that's okay. Again, choose whatever is appropriate for wherever you're shooting. All right? Now, certain states, for example, like the state of California, do one additional thing that you're going to need to take care of, which is meal penalties. If you go over 6 hours, you have to, and you don't give them a physical break, you have to pay a meal penalty. Non-union California is simple in the fact that you just say non-union. You can even click this little button if you want to, or you can have it auto pay. I suggest usually doing the auto pay function because you are not allowed to override. A lot of people think you can do graces. You can't, not on non-union. They just get paid. Doesn't matter. See how the program says there were 8? Because there were a lot. Because these are half-hour periods. Now, that's a different thing from a union person. A union person will get paid 8 times, and there's a rule for that. But this is a non-union person. It doesn't matter if you get them in AM and PM, you get 1, and it's basically just the hourly rate, okay? So just make sure that you do, if you are doing a California show and you do go over 6 hours and you don't give that person a break, make sure you choose this too. And again, you can do auto pay as well, but the union rules are right here as well. I'll do that in a moment when I go into union. But there's that right there, okay? So now that I've got that in there, I'm good to go. And now all I have to do is hit Magic Pay. Now, okay, I goofed up. And see, that's a good thing because I wanted you to see this because the program is now warning us, oops, I needed a weekly rate. I took it out. That's right. This isn't a weekly person. This is a daily person. Wait, no, sorry, hourly person. The hourly person. There we go. So, all right. Now I've got my hourly. Now it's broken out. See, now you can start seeing on the hourly people, it's getting a little more complicated, right? I get 8 hours of straight time, and I've got, 40 total, right? Because that's 5 times that. And I've got, my time and a half, 20 hours. I got my 4 hours of double time, and then I have my meal penalty, okay? So now we can see where the program really can start helping you because, doing flats is kind of simple, although there's a lot of functionality in the program that you can do. But, yeah, there's all kinds of things with hourly rates that you have to deal with, and this is where it becomes a lot more complicated. You have to sit there and break down the rules, right? Now, another thing you can look at down here is the allowances section. The allowances section can allow you to put a box, a card. You can fill in your own one here. For example, let's do a cell phone allowance. You can put in, now this is an override of the labor account above it. So if you want a different episode, maybe you want a cell phone, or maybe what some people do, like a box, they might want to do an amort account. You can do that. Maybe you have a 999 amort account for your episode. That's fine. Do that. But you can use, if you don't use it, it will just default to whatever is in the labor. But if you want to, say, for example, I want to have that same episode, but I do want a different detail account, maybe it's 888, fine, whatever it is. And if it's applicable, there's a set or a free field, that's fine too. Now, is this a weekly amount or a daily amount? By default, it's a prorated daily amount, okay? So if you say it's $10 a day, no problem. Let's put that in there, and now all I need to do is just say magic pay job, and now what will happen is now I've added my cell with my new account structure, which is perfect, and now it's 5 times 10, all right? If you do, on the other hand, want to say it's a flat amount, then you can go ahead and just say it's a weekly amount, and you know what? It's supposed to be $40 weekly. You can do that instead, and just make sure you click one important thing about that, which is it's a weekly amount, okay? So in other words, it caps. So otherwise, it's designed every day they work, if it'll get paid that amount of money, all right? So that's $10 a day. They work 6 days. It would be 10 times 6, $60. 2 more things to note about that is it is non-taxable by default. Most of your allowances are now considered taxable, so choose that button, and now if I click it again, it'll actually now go in and I can make it taxable. Of course, now you see I left it at $40, but that's okay. Maybe it was $40, now it's $200. But see, now it's taxable. Another thing that's on the very end of that is do not pay. Do not pay can be very handy for certain reasons, and that main reason would be maybe it's a non-production week, what they call a non-shooting week or a dark week, okay? On those weeks, maybe this person doesn't get a cell phone allowance. They only get the cell phone allowance when we're in production. So what you can do is just suppress it. Instead of wiping this information out, right, because it's going to come over here every time, it's a suppress button. And you come in here and hit Magic Pay Job, and it's gone. That's something that's really good that might be notes on time cards or notes to yourself, not to pay a cell phone rental, in this case, right, on days that are non-shooting days, non-production days. So yeah, use that to your advantage if you want to use that, right? Okay, so there's that. There's other things further down. There's per diems. The per diem is really quite simple. You enter an account, or I'm going to leave it blank because I'm going to do the default. But all you really need to do is say, every city has a slightly different per diem. Some is taxable, some is non-taxable. We'll just say it's 25 and maybe 35. Okay, and then that amount, if we do that, again, you can put your account structure if you want to. Otherwise, it will default to the labor above it, like it did right there. Okay, and see what it did is it literally said 25, 35 each day. They worked. Again, it broke it out per day, so times 5 days worked. Now, another thing you can do, too, is if you want to wash it through payroll. In other words, I'm paying through AP, but I want to make a notation that we're actually paying it through AP because, usually it's done with a piece of paper that's signed off on, it's gone, and then somebody makes a labor claim, I never got my paid by per diem. Well, this is a good way. You wash it through your payroll, and you can do something. You can take it to a per diem advance account, and a lot of times that's some kind of a 999 account, right? So you can put that in there, say auto, and what the auto does that's really handy is It literally takes the two, sums them together, and then puts a negative credit amount to offset that amount. So in other words, it's washing. In other words, you know, the two debits and the one credit now are not affecting the total, but it is actually doing the washing through payroll, which is a very handy thing to do. There's other things down there too, like salary advances, stuff like that. If you have any questions, again, about any of these little sections, feel free to call us, because there's not enough time to go through in a demonstration to show everything in the program. All right, bottom of the program is an interesting section that we've been kind of modifying and simplifying. It's not required. It is optional information to track. It's the address of the person. It's an email. It's a cell phone, gender information if you're needing to track that kind of information. Also the emergency contact phone. There's city, state tax. There's all kinds of different things down here. There's even a birthday if you want to do that. This is information that is not required for the program to work in any way. Okay? In fact, if you don't need to do this, don't do it. Don't, just leave it alone. Keep it, you know, this is something you're not required to do. Maybe the POC is doing it. Leave it alone. But it is there for your benefit. If there are reports for this, if you want to enter the information, so use it to your advantage if you need it. There's another section down here which is hot costing, in which again we go into the hot costing webinar. So if you have any questions about that, watch the webinars for hot costing, or you can actually watch. There's a tutorial that actually shows you about dealing with hot costing that are on our website that I showed you earlier. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else I can show you about this non-union one? I think I've gotten through everything. I will do another split here in a moment, but I'll do that in union. I just want to see what questions you might have first. A person that says it's available on a Mac, yes. I answered that a little bit earlier. It is available on Mac and it works on Sierra. Of course, we have not tested on High Sierra, which is their new operating system, but we will. I don't suspect there'll be any problems because we are using FileMaker 16. FileMaker actually is an Apple product, so if there's a patch, they will actually they'll patch it for us and we'll give you a new version. So keep an eye on that. But yes, it works on Sierra just fine. The one that's on our website, if you download it, it'll work okay. All right. See, sun cut out for many seconds twice now. All right, well, hopefully it's still not cutting out on you. Hopefully it's better now than it was. All right, perfect. All right, so maybe something happened with, if anybody else notices that the sound's cutting out, please let me know. All right, so those are the questions for now. Excellent. All right, so let's switch over now, and again, feel free to type those questions in as we go along, and I'll answer them as we as needed as we go along. All right, so switching over. Now, this is a little more complicated. Again, you can do it in the top corner, or when you first start in the program, you can do that. This is the wide. Again, this is just a wider episode. Go back here. All right, so here's our union section. Now, what's different about the union section? A couple of important things. One is we have now OC codes in here. OC codes are important because that pays for your pension, health, and welfare for the union employee. So this is the nice thing about it. You don't have to enter it here. Your payroll company will know what it is. However, this is one thing I've noticed over the years. Most paper time cards actually have an OC code on it, and your payee may put their OC code on it. As long as you're checking it and make sure it's correct, it's going to go to the payroll company correct too, because over the years, reason why we added this is because sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes the payroll company gets it wrong. Sometimes you may get it wrong. If you look it up and you're confident, you're the one that's doing the payroll, right? If you've got it right and you're confident it's right and it goes to the payroll company correctly, guess what? You don't have to go back and do retro, right, to fix the problem. Because yes, the payroll company will help you do it, but of course you have to go in and, because you're the payroll person doing this, you have to go fix it. How much better is it if you just get the right OC code in the beginning and it goes all the way through the payroll process properly? So I would suggest, to your benefit, getting the right OC code in there. If they give you the OC code, sure, look it up, make sure it's correct, or just make sure it's right when you put it in here, because then it'll go all the way through the process. If you accidentally type it, then of course your payroll person, your payroll company will check that and make sure, but then again, you're double checking. This is the one main reason that people love Showbiz so much, is double checking to make sure that your payroll is as accurate as possible, that human mistakes are being, whittled out or gone. All right, so that's why we want to put that in there. All right, so that's down there. All right. Other things that are important here. DGA. DGA, you're going to enter hours for them, no problem. That's what we want to do. But remember, DGA doesn't really have overtime. They do have an equivalent overtime, which is called an extended day. They get half their rate, full rate, or double their rate, depending on how many hours they work in a day, and also depending on certain criteria, like are there 2 ADs, one AD, are they in the studio, are they distant, or the UPM? Just choose the appropriate type, make sure you enter the hours, and then, yes, they are flat. They will pay that flat rate. However, it will pay them that extended day properly based upon the hours they work. All right, so you can choose that. Work location, again, this is something I didn't brush on, but it is in the non-union as well. If for some reason you are changing your work location on a particular day or particular days, then choose a different work location. Say, for example, my default is Los Angeles, but then we went to Burbank, right, which has maybe different rules or different taxes or whatever, for example, right? We're going to a different city, so we can go to Burbank, California, right there, and then we move to a different city. So now we're going to, those tax laws are going to kick in as compared to Los Angeles' tax rules, all right? So do that to your advantage. That's a good little thing there to help you. All right. Work zone is also something that's also in the union section too. It's a nice way of being able to say it's studio, distant, report to, or bus to. Be aware that there's actually no rules associated with it yet, but it is a way of noting that it's a distant, a bus to, a report to, or a studio day, because a lot of times payroll companies like to see that to understand and make sure it's work. But yeah, you can choose various things, like there's an overtime schedule, which I'll go into in a moment, you can change it to, and also make sure that either rules are correct, okay? So there's that. Now, so you know, and by the way, if you go ahead and you make, say it's a studio here, that's now a default. So when I hit Magic Pay, all the days that are worked, it will now say studio. It is a handy little thing if you want a default. Otherwise, it's non-applicable. It'll say nothing. All right. So something that you also find too about this overtime is different, right? It's actually showing you a grid, but it's showing your grid is much larger, right? Because, well, when we were dealing with non-union, the highest we ever went to was double time. Union, this is completely different. So let me show you this. OT schedules. OT schedules, we have a whole lot of them. Okay, keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling if you like to. But here's a nice thing, and I haven't shown you the one really nice function that I'll show you that's in a lot of other parts of the program, is our find and get. Okay? Now, if I want to enter a piece of criteria, I click over here and say find. You'll notice how everything kind of turns into a spyglass and everything has a little dash around it, okay? So when you do that, now you're in the find mode. You're actually going and I can search on base criteria. So I can say, you know what? They are camera. Okay? So I've looked at camera, I get. There's all my camera overtime schedules. We add them in fact, the interesting about it is every new version of the program, we add more and more contracts in there. Now, mind you, we will not add side letter agreements. Side letter agreements are agreements that are an agreement between you and usually a local or a guild that will that nobody else gets. So, and nobody else they don't want anybody else to know that too. So you can make your own custom overtime schedules. I'll show you that in a moment. But yes, we don't put those in here. Side letter agreements, one-off agreements, we don't put in because those are usually concessions by a local or a guild only for your show. So yes, we won't put them in. You can do it for yourself, of course, and I'll show you how to do that. But yeah, we don't put them in because, again, that's because they make a deal with specifically your production company or your show or maybe even your studio. Okay. A lot of times those happen in states that are states that don't have a particular rule yet, or sometimes it happens with cable agreements too. Of course, you'll know because you'll need to look at your agreement just to make sure it's correct. Nevertheless, we'll just say, for example, it is LA 600. That's the Camera Guild. Mind you, I could have said 600, and I would have found, all the 600 guilds in here. I could have been even more specific and said LA 600 instead of New York 600. So it would have narrowed down my criteria. So again, it's number one, find. If I wanted to say it's LA 600, right? Because I don't want to see anything else other than LA. I get. And by the way, it didn't have to be capitalized. It's what we call a wild card. It finds anything with that criteria. See how the New York has gone? Okay, so now I'm going to, this is my, I'm a TV, I'm report to, good enough. That's the one I want. Choose it, and now say how the overtime changed a little bit. Done. All right. So just make sure you choose the right one. Now, again, I told you, how do you make your own? Generally, what you do is you just say, find all, and you can just say new, and you say, I want to make a new schedule, it pops down the bottom. But let me show you another way that might be better for you, which is in doing it in your favorites. Some people actually like to, you'll find that of all the overtime schedules we have in the program, there are about 8 to 10 different variations of it. In fact, a lot of times those variations are in 6th and 7th days. Fair enough, all right? So what you do is you can go ahead and make them here because you maybe only want to deal with them here. In fact, there is a function that can even pull existing ones from the other screen over to this one. I'll show you that in a second. But yeah, all you need to do is just enter the criteria. And again, we can help you do this if you're at all confused. You make a new one, you can change this sample one. That's why I'm showing this one. Change the sample one, type in your own particular name. You can duplicate it too if you want to. It's up to you. But yeah, type in, are they 8 hours of straight time? Are they 4 hours of time and a half? Double time after 12? What happens on the 6th and 7th day? Just type that in there. There's an alternate day too. That's often because maybe they might have, for example, maybe I have an 8-hour and it's a distant day and it's a 6. See, normally I'm 8-4, right? But my distant day is a 6-hour day and it's still a work day. So that I can change that. And then if I wanted to use that one, I hit apply. And now if I wanted to use that one on a 6th or 7th day, that's my day type. Remember, that's 6th, 7th, or alt day. So you choose it again. It would be on by default. It will choose 6 and 7 days. But in this case, I want to say, you know, I don't have a 6th and 7th day. I want this to be my alt day. And then watch what happens. See what happened here? I dropped 2 hours into the time and a half, and now only the double time is 2 hours, right? Because I bumped it back because it's a 6-hour day instead of a 4-hour day at time and a half. So use those things to your advantage. But in OT Schedule, if you want to copy over to your favorite, you know, find and get the ones you like, and at the far end, there's this thing called Copy to Favorites, and it moves it right over in there. Voila, good. Makes it very easy. That way you can only deal with just the ones that are applicable to you and not have to use that search and find function every time. So use that to your advantage if you'd like to use it. And again, all you need to do is just apply it, and I'll apply a new one, right? This is an elapsed one. See the difference? Now, a lot of people get a little confused with elapsed compared to worked. All it really means is that the lunch is deducted from their day, but the lunch is not deducted from their gold if they earn it. Some people refer to this as, you know, don't deduct it from the end of the day. It's another way of doing it. You are allowed to deduct the time for the lunch, of course, but where do you deduct it from? If I can't deduct it from the gold, right, because that's the rule, I got the gold early because they're based on, in other words, this person was not really there 12 hours, they were there 13 elapsed hours, right? I get to deduct the lunch, I just can't deduct it from the gold time. Another way of thinking, you go into gold early. You go in based on the elapsed hour. But you do get to deduct the lunch. Where do you deduct it from? The time and a half. So that's what happens. Watch. Watch this thing here, right here. W, 8 and 4. E, 8, 3, 1. We deducted the lunch. And see, that's where people get confused with elapsed. They think they don't deduct lunch. You do. You just don't deduct it from the end of the day when they're in gold, if they get the gold. So that's what happens. It's still a 12-hour day. It's 8, 3, and 1. Now, that's okay. If when I explain this to people, people get a little confused by it. That's okay. Just make sure that you choose the elapsed contract, which are generally features and or sometimes cable agreements. And if it's not, it's a worked one. Now, worked as a concession by the studios because you're working them. And this is the one thing you're going to find about all the industry. The longer you work an employee or a payee, the better deal you're going to get. Okay, and they're going to give you, you know, because TV shows work for usually anywhere between 6 and 9 months. You're working that employee longer. They gave a concession. The studio's got a concession from the guilds. Okay, we'll let you do work instead of a lapse. Features and movie of the weeks and maybe cable shows are shorter, and they may not get that work. They may only get an elapse, and that's fine. Choose what is appropriate for you. Okay? Now, we've got that in there. Now, another thing that we have that's different is we also have union meal penalties. That's different. Okay? So you're going to want to choose the union meal penalties. You can do the auto pay, although I often suggest not doing it. There's a reason why, too. So let's choose the ISU Studio. If you ever want to see the MPV rates, click in here. Or if you have a problem and they're not paying right, so for example here, you'll notice that, for example, my basic crafts is wrong. You can hit this little reset. I had done a demonstration where I had changed that, right? And now it's back to being correct. Now it's correct. Now just make sure this is what you want. They can be changed, which is what happened before I changed it. And now it's correct. Now when you go back in, and of course this is incorrect right now because that's still that non-union meal penalty, I can hit clear. All right, so now it's 8 meal penalties. That's correct. That's what I'm supposed to pay. So now I can say pay MPVs. Make sure it's correct. If that's correct based on the scale that you've chosen, then you're good to go. And you hit Magic Pay, and now it's updated for the correct amount. But there's something else. That's why I also say don't turn this on automatically, because there's a couple of other options you have here. You can do NDBs. So say, for example, we did this. We went to 14.1 and 15.1 here. So you've got a tenth. Okay? I've actually gone over by one tenth or 6 minutes. Okay? Now, there's two things you can do here. For example, maybe it was a camera crew. They came in early. They had a lot of complicated setups. So they were in 2 hours before call. Now, in NDB, non-deductible breakfast, you can't deduct the time, but you can deduct the meal penalty. Okay, that's what the ND stands for, non-deductible. You can't deduct the time, but you can deduct the meal penalty from that time. All right, so you put the NDB right in here. You put a time in though. You don't put 1, 2. You just put the time in, and you take advantage of it because an NDB can do 2. Whoops. Oh, something happened here. Here we go. It can be 2 minutes, 2 hours. Okay, it can be 2 hours here. So if you come in here and you can say it's 10. We're going to say it's 10 till 10 o'clock because it delays the meal penalty calculation by 2 hours. Notice how that went away. Now that meal penalty that normally would have calculated, that's why we do a time, because we say we go from 8 to 10. Now it's calculating from 10 to 14, which is less than 6 hours, no meal penalty. Okay. Another thing is grace. Okay. Maybe when we were on set, we called a 12-minute grace. Again, that can wipe that meal penalty out by just choosing that. Now, mind you, if you go over, so if I went to say, let's say, let's do 0.3, which is now too far. See how it automatically knows? You went too far. You went too far over the meal. You went more than, because 12 minutes is 0.2, right? That's really 18 minutes at 0.3. So now I can't take it. I really can't take it. The program will protect you from that, so because you can't take the grace at that point. So there's a nice little thing that we built in that it will protect you if you accidentally do that. But that's okay. It's 6 minutes. You're allowed up to 12. Good to go. I'm taking that 12-minute grace period. Now, you'll notice at the PM, we also have, if you click into it, there are 2 additional ones. There's a 30, which is called a camera wrap, and there's also a 60, which is another type of camera wrap, but those are unique. It's basically a camera wrap grace. Throw those in there if you want to, and that'll take care of it. Another thing you can do that people don't realize is you can override the program and just do whatever you want. Say, for example, you wanted to type in, see how the number's there? Say I just wanted to go into units. Watch what happens here. See how this unit's here where it says 8? It's because I clicked the button and I told it to calculate that amount, right? If I want to go in the units and just type in G or ND, that's fine. When I hit calculate, see how it suppresses it? But it's better than putting the 0. Why? Because what happens here, if I go into the actual time card, I can actually see the G called right there. Okay? So that's the nice thing about it. If you do want to do it this way, you can do it that way. but make sure that you see that, oh, right, they took grace. That's why there's no meal penalty showing up in that time card. Okay? And that's a little bit there, so if you get any questions about that, you can type it in, I'll go over it again, or you can ask us, give us a call, and we'll help you with that. Let's see. Paying opposite. That's another thing that's handy to know in here too. When you're paying the MPVs, maybe you are studio most of the week, but you're location on one day. So you have to choose a rule, studio, but one day, for example, here, let's go ahead and do this. We'll say we're copying and pasting. Let's take that G out. Okay. So we'll say, for example, that on this one day we're paying the studio rate, but you know what? This Tuesday we went to location. That's a different rate, right? It starts at $7.50 and scales up from there. So put that right there, and now if we say a pay opposite, click the button here. Now it's $7.50, right? Because that's the lower rate when we're on location. Good. All right, so that's what we got. So just remember that's what that's for. And then there's also this little thing on the end about night premiums, because we have a night premium, which I haven't shown you yet. And maybe if they're on set, they don't get night premium, but when they're offset, they do get night premium, because that may happen. You know, somebody may be offset, maybe a rigging electric person may be offset for setup, and then they go on set to be there. So you can actually choose that they don't get a night premium because they're on set. Usually people who are on set do not get night premiums. They're off production people get them, right? So use that function there. All right, so now that I've got my meal penalties the way I wanted to, they're good. They're you know, I don't need to worry about the graces in this case because we didn't take them. Yeah, I do have that big meal penalty. Whatever it is, whatever you're happy with, do that, take it, take care of it. Here, in fact, I'll even do one. If you do have a amount that actually is clicked and you want to change it, by the way, clear it out first. You can hit the clear entire thing, but I just want to do this one. See it suppressing it, we're good. Now I've got a 12-minute, I've got one I want to pay, and I've got that 8 I want to pay. So now I've done that. I just hit Magic Pay, and now that meal penalty, all those meal penalties, think of the meal penalty calculator for union as a mini calculator in itself. And now, voila, there we go. I'm actually literally going in. Now I have a meal penalties for a union person, which would be completely different from a non-union person. Allowances, a little bit different. We do have a few more things in here. For example, there's some stuff for, yeah, we have the box car and sell. We do have things like the meal money for DGA and Teamsters. In fact, you choose that here. Okay. There's even rules about the Teamsters. They have to work a certain number of hours, and there's a different rule for that. So you do that. There's extended days. There's production fees. Of course, DGA, right? There's salary advance. There's also holiday and vacation that's down here. If you ever want to go over it, give us a call. I can show you how that works. But that's literally paying them for vacation when they don't work, when they're not working. All right, so next to that, that is the night premium. And in fact, here's the nice thing about night premium. We actually have all three major types of night premium in here. There's a couple of odd ones that are out there right now. We're looking into it and may add them, but we have IATSE, we have the standard IATSE, which is, then we put the rules in just so you know what they are, right? We have the videotape agreement, and then we have 695, 700, and 705, which is wardrobe, projectionist, and editorial. They're off production. They usually work unusual hours, and they are different from the standard IATSE. So if you do want to use it, just make sure you choose. You can choose it here, but I often would look to say do it here. Page down. And just go choose it right here. What is the rule? It's 695, 705. And then if you ever want to look at the calcs, look in here by going to this little button. And there it is right there. And see how it's going in and calculating out their night premium and calculating out properly. Again, not doing double time, because with most of the guilds, you don't have to pay. They just want you to pay, you know, it's called premium on a premium. You do not have to usually pay both, but you do need to pay the higher premium. In the case double time is better, so double time you pay them instead of the night premium. So that's why you'll see it's 10 or 20 on straight time or time and a half, but it's stopped when you get to that particular spot. All right, and again, that's what that not ignore night premiums for. Maybe they went from off production on production. We want to suppress the night premium calculation for a particular day. All right. Let's see if there's anything else down below. No, that's pretty much it for union. Again, whenever you've made any changes, you just hit Magic Pay. Notice something that it does about Magic Pay is that I'm doing a lot of stuff there, right? I'm calculating, breaking things up, and now see it's getting more and more complicated with night premiums and other things like that. Yeah, this is where you're starting to see the program really start to use a lot of its calculation power, right? Look at one more thing that we can do with the program. Remember I told you earlier about splitting? I have 5 in the union, and I actually additionally have 2 more if I want to that we put on this little screen here, okay? You could literally split 7 times in a week, 3 times in one day. So let me go over that a little bit for you. All right, so going into this. Now, I usually with a splitter, again, you can choose whatever you want. The default can be left blank. But what's the reason why you're splitting? Well, I click the button here. It will copy down regardless of what you put in here. But in this case, I want to do episodics. Now, you can type in EP if you want to, 01, 101, whatever you want. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to put 101. Do this one, and I'll type in it's 102. And I could do with something as simple as this too. I could do 1 and 2, right? And then this is 3 and 4. Again, the reason why using the splitter is a description field is so it's clear to not only you but to everybody else you're dealing with why you're splitting out. Okay, and there's 104. Now this is where we're starting to get a little crazy, right? We're splitting all kinds of different things here. So now I've got this breaking all out. I've got, again, I could have chosen a different detail account or different rates if I wanted to. I just literally want to split this out by multiple episodes. So this is where it starts getting crazy. So let's just say we want to do 3 different episodes. I want to do this day is 1 episode. We're doing episode 1 again, 101, right? 102 is here, and 102 again is here. Again, I'm just doing that drag and drop thing. And then we're going to do episode 103 here, okay? And leave that alt in. We'll even leave the alt in there too. So this is where we're getting a lot more complicated in our splitting, right? We're splitting 3 different times here. That becomes complicated, especially with different overtime, with different days and different meal penalties and night premiums and all this other stuff. And look at that. Within a few seconds, I literally had 3 splits that fast. This is why people love the program. TV shows and even movies now are increasingly splitting like crazy. When they do that, this is what happens. It gets kind of nuts, right? So now I've made it so much easier to deal with because I've actually broke it all out. Again, could you do this in a day? Absolutely. The same function works within the day. You just tell the program to split by time or split by percent. So say, for example, let me do this, and I'll say this day is this Monday is supposed to be episode 2, right? All right. So I want episode 2 there, right? And I'm going to split it 50-50. I can literally come here, put 50%, and just say split by percent. Now 50-50 is done there. It'll actually even give me a notation here and on the time card that it's a split day so that everybody sees it clearly, right? I can split by time. So, for example, I wanted to say everything after lunch. So I look at the day, and I'll see that I want to split everything after this is Monday, after 15.1. I want to split by time. Voila. It basically just breaks down whatever you want, right? And then now if I want to do it manually, say, for example, my producer tells me that he or she wants, say they want just the overtime, whatever overtime goes. I can literally go that, notice how it automatically debits. And I could have typed it in as well. I could have said I want 4 hours here. I just do the drop down because it's easier to drop it down. Now I'm doing the overtime for just this day. Again, it still shows the split, but when I go back in, now I'm even doing within the day. Okay, Magic Pay tells me I have a split here. Now, again, it's going to take a little bit longer because we're doing a lot more calculation here, but there we go, including with per diems and all kinds of crazy things, per diem advances. See how now the program becomes so much more efficient. Is you're doing a lot of complicated calculations that would normally take you a very long time to do by hand. That's where Showbiz Timecards becomes very powerful. All right, is this splitting function especially. Now, can you use splitting for other things? Yes. fact, I show people all the time and say, how can I split a 6th or a 7th day out? You're going to call it 6th or 7th day. Say, for example, we did have a true 6th day here. You could say, maybe the hours here, copy and paste, and we want a true 6th day. So we'll just say we're not going to use any of these other ones, but we really want to do, we'll even leave it as an alt day. That's fine. It's a 7th day. We'll sorry, 6th day. We'll make sure it's a 6th day so that it pays over here. But we'll say, you know what? We want literally the cost to be separated, because watch what happens when I do this. Oh yeah, you have to see again. It's protecting me. I actually have days in here which I don't have set up because I took them out. That's okay. So let's wipe it out real quick. There we go. So it's going to go back to my standard. It's still calculating my night premiums and other things. And there we go. Still kind of complicated, but it's just one split, right? Say, for example, now I wanted to split a 7th day out because the 7th day, I'm not clear where the 7th day is actually coming from. So I'll just say this day is 7th, right? We can do that. No problem. Take that and just drag that. Sorry, it was 6, wasn't it? It's a 6th day, sorry. It's a 6th day. So we'll do that. We'll just type in 6, drag and drop that to the true 6th day. And now when I get Magic Pay, it splits it out into 2 different types. Again, with all the complicated splitting that I just did, right? Ta-da, there we go. So yes, it can be that splitter can be used for all kinds of reasons. Re-rating, showing a 6th day, showing a holiday. That was something that somebody asked literally yesterday. Type in HOL because you want the holiday costs to be splitting out. Very simple. It's a very effective way of breaking costs out by episodic, by holiday, by whatever criteria you want. All right? So, all right, so there's that. Let me take a look and see if there's any questions about any of this, because there's a lot. Somebody's asking, Matt, did you say that it will break the night premium as default if you click? No, it doesn't break it. In other words, it takes it out. So, for example, somebody, for example, and this is a good example that is, say, for example, somebody is a electric grip, okay? And what happens is they're off production the whole week, right? We turn the off production on, right? But we don't want to pay on particular days, right? So what we do is, normally it suppresses this, but I did a little bit backwards. It normally wouldn't show any meal penalties. But say, for example, they were on production and you don't want to pay the night premium, just make sure you check the box to say, I do not want to pay a night premium. And the night premium will now be suppressed from these days because these days actually, well, actually this one too, we'll say that these 2 days, that's fine, they got the night premium, but these days they were on production. They were supposed to get a meal penalty, right? Because we want the meal penalty to be paid. And now what will happen is now you'll see that it'll drop a little bit. The night premium will no longer calculate on those particular days. In fact, if you want to go into it, you can kind of see what happens is see the other days now dropped out, right? But the Tuesday and Thursday are there because we told it to pay on those days. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But yeah, we do want to pay night premium for those days, but we don't want to pay it on the other days. All right. A couple things let me go over real quick, and I'll give you a little treat, and then we'll go into SAG. Is that make sure of a couple of things. We talked about the searching. The searching here makes the same. It's the same way. You hit find. You say, for example, I want a week ending. I want a person. I want to do whatever I want. I hit get, and it brings all those time cards in. If I want to search by any criteria, I hit find. I can stack them together and say even a person's name. Okay, and hit get, and that one time card. I can search by picture project. You can do multiple projects, multiple seasons. I have people that do a lot of different seasons. That's fine. Just use the find and get to be able to narrow down. You can find by episode here. If you go into card list, you can actually find by department in here, all right? So that's how that works. Another thing that's handy about it is, for example, find all takes you back and gets all your time cards back again. Say, for example, I want to now duplicate time cards. Now, this is the nice thing, and this is something I've been showing you now, is time cards, you don't have to do them again. I mean, not all the important information about them, right? You don't want the hours to calculate, most likely. You don't want the meal pennies to calculate. So what we have is there's a couple of functions in the program. New time card, blank new time card. You saw me do that earlier, right? You fill out all the information. Duplicate card is literally just like the other card, except now you notice a couple things disappeared. The weekdays went out, the weekending dates went out because I want to put a new week ending, right? And then I can go hit Magic Pay. This kind of duplication is really good for people who don't change hours a lot. It's really good for a lot of game shows. A lot of our game shows are live shows, like, the talk shows at night, who, by the way, I'll use the program. They can, they have the same hours every day because they're set. It's a live broadcast, and they use the same hours every day. That, by the way, you can just go ahead and just use. No problem. Go ahead and use that. Duplicate info only, all right? Duplicate info only is a little bit different in the fact that what it does is that it doesn't put the hours in, it doesn't put the meal penalty calculation in, but overtime schedule, rules on how you pay them, splitting, all that kind of stuff, that's all in there, okay? That's left alone, so perfect. Now that we've got that in there, now we've established that, let me help you understand something. You don't have to do this one at a time, you can do them in batches. So we go to something called reports. In the reports, there's a whole lot of different reports, by the way, and you can look through these. It'll summarize, it'll do all kinds of different reporting that your producer might need. Call us if you have any questions about them. But yeah, mass time duplication, if I click on this, it literally goes through and it can do a duplication of my time cards, all right? Literally what I want to do, though, is I want to do one weekend. I don't want to do everything, right? So I want to say find, I want to find my last week of time cards, say get. This is just those time cards. If I have more than one show, and I do here, right? Maybe, no, I don't want to do that. I want to find weekending and just one show. Oops. I want to do Surfer. There we go, hit get. And there we go. Now I've got that. And now I can just say, I want to select all checkboxes. I can individually go in and deselect maybe 2 people that I know that aren't coming back to production because they're done. Make sure I do that. And then I just say, duplicate all check time cards. It might take a second, but it's asking you, what do you like to do? I want to do the info only. It is better, especially if their hours are changing. If the hours are not, then you can use the other duplication option. It's going to go through a couple processes here, but what it's doing is, it's literally asking, what is my new week ending? So I'll skip ahead and I'll say the 15th, right? So we'll say this is my new week because I'm starting my new break for the payroll. So I'll say it's 7, did I say it was 15, right? Yeah, 15, perfect. So 7/15/ and always put the full year in, just so you know, it's handier. We do have things like picture project, which you can leave alone or even blank out if you don't want it, but that's your picture project. It's handy to put this in here because some people said, you know what, I'm moving to season 2 and I want all of them to change to season 2. Again, your production company and your location are probably not changing, but if they do, make sure you change it here, click OK. And now it's going to ask you, what is the production episode? It's the very first one. So say, for example, no, it's not 319. It'll default to whatever time card is at the top, by the way. No, it's supposed to be 320. Just say yes. And now with the splitter, what do I want to put in the splitter? Oh, I want to put in EP 320. Yeah, you can leave it blank if you don't want to. Just say yes, or you can say no. It'll blank it out. And now what it does is it churns through all of those 30 time cards. And now every one of those time cards, if I now put them in, watch this, I'll put them in department order. I'll go to my worksheet list, go to the first time card. Now I know they're in department order, right? So I can go in, I can start entering hours. Let's do 8, 13, 14, 21. And I'll, copy this, because I know the same hours, right? Or maybe there's an adjustment here. It's 21.5, fair enough. I can even copy the total hours. I'll show you why in a second here. Now I've got that in there. Do I have meal penalties to pay? Yes, I do. I can go in here and say, yeah, it was studio. We didn't take any graces. That's fine. We pay it. Hit Magic Pay. And I'm done with that time card. Move forward to the next time card. Same department. Same hours, right? Paste hours. Takes a second. There we go. I have the same hours in there. Again, you can adjust that. Maybe it wasn't 21.5. No, this person actually was 21. Not a problem. Change that out. Meal penalties, yes, and I do need to pay them. I do have the right meal penalty rule in there. Click Magic Pay. Done. This is another reason why people love Showbiz Timecards so much, is because it literally, all this calculation time is sped up because you've already entered the information about the person up top, right? All this information up top, how to pay them, the rules, all the things that we've gone over for the last hour and a half, they're all in there, right? So we're done. We just go through and we duplicate and we copy off of the time card and we put the new hours in. Again, you can use the copy and paste because, again, we're dealing with the same department. Again, another camera person. I can do the same thing all over again. Paste those hours in. Look at those meal penalties, pay them, magic pay. See, that's why people love it. Once you've done your first set of time cards, every week after that's going to be so much easier to deal with and so much more faster and efficient. Okay? So, all right, another thing important too is regardless of all the work that you've done, on every Monday it's going to ask you to back up the time cards. Now, I didn't mention this, but the program, every time you click into a new field, grab a new field, check a field, it auto-saves, so there's no worry about saving anything. However, if the hard drive in this computer goes down, what happens to the data? It goes with it, right? So we do once a week option on Monday, because it's usually a payroll day. When you close the program down, it'll automatically say, hey, would you like to back it up? Can you manually do that? Absolutely, and I would suggest doing every day you've done some payroll. You could back it up to whatever drive you want, but it should be an external drive. Back up my time cards and hall costs, and I'm just going to say, you can put it to the desktop if you want to, but I have a flash drive plugged in, and I'm going to go right to that little support drive, click on it. It'll take a few seconds, but it doesn't matter if it's a couple of hundred time cards or 5,000 or even 25,000 time cards, which literally I have seen, like yesterday, in fact. Somebody who literally had 25,000 time cards. What would happen if all those time cards went away? Well, you'd be, where are you going to get the data from if you don't have it backed up, right? So it's backing up to the flash drive. Again, takes maybe about 30 seconds. Again, it might take a little bit longer if you have more. But now I've got that data on that flash drive. It's protected. I should unplug that, put it in a fireproof safe, and now if anything happens and I need to move it, and this will happen, it has happened. Some of you it'll happen to, unfortunately. The hard drive will crash, and you go, oh, man, Roger, the computer went down. What are we going to do? And I'll say, do you have a backup? Yes, we do. Perfect. Let's put it on another computer. It can even be on a Mac. Say you're on a PC, but you have a Mac, and that's fine. We can put it on the Mac, and we can import the data, no problem at all. And we can even put it on that computer temporarily until you get your regular computer fixed and go back to that. Not a problem. Just contact my team, and we can help you with that, all right? So I'm going to show you a little treat, and then I'll switch over to SAG. So let me show you something that we do here at Media Services that's really handy. I'm going to grab one set of time cards and inkjet. All right. And that is, and there's an extra one here that we don't want. All right. And that is all this work that we've done, right? All of this time card entry. When you're dealing with other payroll companies, they are taking this information in hand, entering it into their payroll system. Well, we know that, for those of users who are Showbiz Timecards users, we understand there's nothing more frustrating than having to do that. All this work that you've done, and you made sure it was correct, and you hand typed it in, and then for somebody to hand type it in, maybe possibly make a mistake. Well, we don't do that. We do something different here at Media Services. We want that speed and efficiency going directly into our payroll system. All right. So what we do is we want you to send us this file. We will have you send us this file in FileMaker Pro format, and then I'll import it in, and then what I'll do is I'll go and I'll actually go, your coordinator will do this, right? They'll take the data, they'll bring it in, and what they'll do is they'll say they're going to upload it into something called our payroll system. They'll tell, hey, various things about the program, okay? They're going to enter various pieces of criteria about the program. They're going to say, oh, well, there's split days, that's fine, not a problem. But yeah, they have a version of the program that's specifically designed for them that allows them to do some of these things. Like, for example, I want to put in your show number. If you're a payroll customer, you have a show number, right? We'll put that number in. Is this biweekly? If it's biweekly, we can do your payroll biweekly. No, it's not. We can clear things out that are important, and I'll just call this one, let's see, test. Click OK, and now it's going to push it into the live payroll system. All right, so essentially what's happening, this whole process, what's happening here, it's really nice. Showbiz Timecards is now doing its own internal check on the time cards, right? making sure that it's checking against our payroll system, and then it goes into our payroll system. Once it goes into our payroll system, then it's checked against the actual individual payee contract, right? And checking to make sure that you got the right amount of maybe guaranteed hours, or maybe the right pay. Is the flat, is it weekly, daily, or is it an hourly person, right? All those little rules are being double checked by a computer system that's essentially doing it in conjunction with Showbiz Timecards. It's all your original data, but it gets checked essentially 3 times. Showbiz Timecards by our payroll system, and then your payroll coordinator will take a look at it and make sure that indeed it is also correct according to what you entered on the time card. So there's a third check by a human being. So what happens though is, see, I just enter all these time cards. It doesn't matter how many. It could be as little as this, or it could be a couple of hundred. What we do, and let me see if it doesn't usually take too long. Let me see here. I'll go into, let me go log in here. All right, and then put my password in. All right. Oh, and there they are. Perfect. All right, so here's my my test group that I literally just put in. Perfect. Good. All right, so now that I've got that in there, I can literally go into the time cards, and I can enter the criteria. So it's already gone in that fast, right? That's the beauty of this, is now that I've got this in here, I've got, oops, let me do it again. There's my, try it again. Let me try, there we go. There's right there. Show, it was through the PPC payroll show. Employee I think I had was Sheila Holmes. There we go. And then she had I think it was this particular 7-8. All right, perfect. So now I can open the time card. See, all this information now is just been pulled in, double checked, and now the payroll coordinator will double check this, make sure it's correct. And now, the payroll now is pretty much done. So that is why, as long as you get your start paperwork into us and you get the time cards to us by 10 a.m., we will give you turnaround the very same day. That is a promise that we will do. That is something we promise. If you use Showbiz Timecards and you give us the starts and you give it to us by 10 a.m., you will get same day turnaround on your payroll. Okay, so think about that. I mean, some of you perhaps are not with us with payroll, and that's okay. We understand that you can't always choose us. But when you are considering and you do have the choice, please consider media services, because we can give you additional tools like this, which something our other payroll companies are not doing. This is an exclusive to media services, because it is our parent company and we are actually importing it directly into the payroll system. It's faster, it's much more efficient, and the human error is eliminated a lot, but you still do have the human touch on the end just to make sure everything looks good and everything's proper. All right? So it's a little kind of a sneak peek into what we do here at Media Services to make it much more efficient for you. All right, let me see if there's any questions about that or anything else, and then I'll switch over to SAG. Somebody said, awesome. All right, well, thank you. I mean, I'm glad that you're happy about that. Anything else? Let's see. Oh, no, somebody actually, apparently they questioned. No, okay, the question they did ask, they never mind because I answered it. All right, excellent. All right, let me see if there's anything else. Okay, that's it. All right, excellent. All right, well, again, I'm going to go over SAG a little more quickly, because this is the nice thing about SAG, is I can't. Because once you learn crew, SAG is a lot easier to deal with. In fact, it's dealing with essentially one guild. Now, I just want to show you something that's important, too, is in the program, there is something called money breaks. These technically have changed as of July 1st. Right now, we're still sitting at, if you're familiar with SAG, the money break is literally double scale. Scale was 933. It's gone up to 1866. Now, they've pushed the agreement through, but it has not been ratified yet. But I did find out that it should be 956, and then double that, of course, would be 1912. So if you do want to be more accurate, and you want to be ahead of the game, that should be the new rate for the money break, okay? If you're an older version of the program, you'll see it might be a little bit older. In fact, we will come out with an update that has this automatically. But how do you do this? It's really simple in the SAG-Cards program. It's right under Forms and under Globals, and it's right here. Okay, just type in whatever's appropriate to you. Make sure your fittings are 1200. That was a couple of years ago. But yeah, that should be, oh, sorry, that was 1912, not 1922, 1912. There we go, 1912. If I'm doing send me a SAG feature. Again, this is something I literally just found out. It should be, as long as the agreement is ratified, that should be the amount because it should be 956. It's 2.5% above what it was before. So again, if you want to be a little proactive, maybe not do as much retro, you can do that. Otherwise, leave it at 1866. That is correct as of before. This is, remember, if you remember, you're hearing that just before the holiday, they did push the agreement through. They just haven't, the SAG has not, all the SAG members have not ratified the agreement yet. Of course, it's rare that they don't, but it does take a few weeks for that to happen. But you can be a little proactive and jump on it, and that should be right. Okay? So again, 1866 is currently right now, but 1912 should be correct with double scale, which is 956. All right. So sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit there, but I want to make sure anybody who is dealing with the program knows that. All right. So what is different about SAG as compared to crew? All right. So one of the major things is, yeah, that worksheet list is the same, card list, same. We have the reports too. You have the worksheet list, the time card to print. We have less time cards to print because mainly we're just dealing with one guild, but that's okay. There's a couple of options here. The main thing is, what's different about it is, well, a couple of small things. The layout's a little bit different, but you'll see it's very familiar. On the top, you have, the information about the person, maybe their character, project information, the dates and stuff like that. Now, there is an overtime schedule, but you don't have to pick it here. You actually pick it from down here, and I'll go over that in a second. The second thing that you'll notice is different is the in and out times are completely different. See how it's different here? The reason why is because we're mimicking the Exhibit G. And those who are familiar with SAG, the Exhibit G is the actor's daily timesheet. It's usually taken care of by the ADs. The ADs usually fill in and out the appropriate times, and then the actor signs off on it. Okay? That is their timesheet. They don't really usually fill out their own time cards. They do it through the Exhibit G instead. So what we do is we mimic the Exhibit G. You have your in, you have your on-set time, dismiss time, of course, make-up removal if applicable, NDB if they have one. There's a meal, first meal, second meal. There's also things for travel time because travel time is calculated differently. In fact, if somebody's in double time, if applicable, and they're being traveled from set to their home, they don't get paid double time. The program automatically will suppress that. In fact, here's the cool thing about the SAG program that you may not know. Screen Actors Guild actually adopted it about almost 10 years ago now. They have adopted it and are using it to audit you. In fact, they're doing that worldwide now. They've been using it for a while, but now more recently they're using it to audit worldwide. But yeah, that's kind of cool because what happens is, and this is one thing that you may not know about, is over the years, if you look at, this is one thing, if you ever look at the SAG codified agreement, in fact, I got one in front of me here, it's huge. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger. Now they've got a big binder on it because it's getting so big on it now, right? Here's the problem. It's very complicated. You look through the rules, and it's not always easy. And sometimes, and SAG even admits this, is that sometimes you call somebody and you get one answer and the other one, maybe it's slightly different. The one thing that's kind of cool about this is because SAG adopted it, they want to make sure it's as accurate as possible. So they've been helping us. We go to them and we say, hey, you know what? Can you help us with this one particular rule, how to pay this particular contract? What happens is our main audit guy that's there, he's been great with us, and what he does is he says, that area's a little gray, and you know what? After looking at the agreement, let me look at it. Let me confirm this with legal. Goes to legal, gets the right answer, comes back to us, tells us how to program it, and then we program it. So we call it SAG compliant. Now, of course, it's SAG-AFTRA Exhibit A compliant because now with both of those contracts, the Exhibit A contract and the regular SAG contract. All right, so now that we have those in there, yeah, it's great because a lot of people can be very confident because it's very specifically designed for just the talent, that there's so many different rules in here that even we forget, but yeah, it's paying right most of the time. So you'll find sometimes it may do something, and again, with both programs, it requires, this program's like Photoshop, right? You need something, really advanced photo program, right, like that. You need somebody who really understands art and graphics, and when you do that, they get a beautiful image, right? Same thing with Showbiz Timecards and Showbiz SAG cards. Is literally you need somebody that knows payroll that can check to make sure that maybe something didn't get entered correctly or something happened. There's occasionally a weird rule that the program doesn't have, but that's okay. That's why we have you as a payroll person making sure this is correct. Or if you're a lead accountant or a producer that's here, this will help your payroll person to make sure it's as accurate as possible. But definitely you want to make sure that somebody that knows the trade, knows how to do stuff, and they'll get a beautiful result. It's like they'll get a beautiful image out of these photo programs. All right? But they're very complicated. This program is too. It's designed specifically for people who know payroll. Now again, for non-union people, then the crew cards is a lot easier to deal with. Admittedly, it's a lot to learn, yes, but it's a lot easier to deal with. When you start getting into more union contracts, of course, it gets more complicated. And SAG is one of those. But yeah, we have a lot of rules in here that are done. Now, what's the other things that are different? Well, I did tell you about this little button here, this auto pay schedules. Let me click on that. Let me show you what that does. Okay, it has all kinds of different rules here, right? Television, 3-day, B, C, distant, studio, theatrical. See, sometimes there's different rules that are not applicable, like there's no 3-day in theatrical. There's low budget contracts. In fact, we put a lot of different contracts in here. All you really need to know is what contract should I pick. I'll say it's B studio. Voila, there it is. Or maybe it should have been a 3-day, right, because this is a 3-day contract. Again, you choose whatever is appropriate for you. The overtime schedule will be correct. Just make sure that it'll choose 44 for a local. Sorry, for 44 for a regular studio, and the distant night overnight is a 48. So yes, it automatically knows rules like that. There's all kinds of nice rules we program in there, including what I totally showed you in the beginning about the money break. Not only will the rate be correct, but also with that money break, if you go a penny over the money break, right, double scale, you don't have to pay double time, and the program will automatically suppress that if you do that. Okay, and there's other rules in there for the B's, C's, and F's. So yeah, all you need to do is make sure you put the information, hit Magic Pay, and it'll calculate it out. Now, there's one additional thing that would be helpful for you to know that the program does do that's kind of handy is, let me see here, I probably can get you, here's like an F contract here. Here's a good one to do. This contract is somebody who's considered it's a true contract. It's not a weekly contract. It's not a daily contract. It's not a 3-day contract. It's a contract for the show or the episode, perhaps, right? So you could say, okay, well, that's usually Schedule F or what's called B, or sometimes C, top of show. Those are contracts that are specifically designed specifically for just, we're doing an episodic television show and it's for, say, 8 days. So we say the contract total will say they're paid $150,000 for that contract, right? How many days are in the contract? We'll say it's 8, and there's 5 days in the week. Now, what this does is really a beautiful little thing. It's something that normally people, when they calculate, do it in their head. We're taking $150,000 because it's not really the week. It's being done by 8 days, right? So it takes 150, prorates it by, it divides it by 8, then it prorates it by 5. So if they work 5 days in a week, it's not going to be 150. It'll be a portion of that, right? So let's go ahead and here, well, I can put a couple of things in here. A couple of days. We'll put in, we have a travel for the 5th day, right? Okay, so in fact, we'll even take the travel day out, just so we have a true 5-day work schedule. There we go. So we have 5 days, right? Now, that I wouldn't pay $150,000 for, right? Because I only have 5 days, so I'm really having to prorate it out. So what I do is I just come here and I click Get Weekly Rate, and now it tells me what it should be, right? It's roughly, what, 2/3, right? Roughly about, and there we go, that's making out that rate. And now it's over here, right? You can leave the scale rate if you want to. You don't need to, though. It's just above scale, obviously. But if you do, contact us if you want to do that, because if you are doing the final cast list and you want to put the scale rate in, it will calculate things like the time and salary units. Most of you people don't need to do that. But yeah, just put in what, just so you know the program is, if it's truly a scale, put in the scale rate there. If it's negotiated, which this is, because this is a negotiated rate, it's the top of show or Schedule F, that is the true rate. But now when I hit Magic Pay, now it's only paying out that amount of money. Now what happens is when you duplicate this time card, this is where you want to duplicate them one at a time. I want to do info only, and it says, hey, would you like to update the contract total? I want to say yes. The reason why now is it's going through, and it now tells me how much I've actually paid and how much I have left to pay. So, and it's 3 days, right? So if I come in here and I do 3 more days, now when I hit Magic Pay, I should be paying out the remaining amount, including, of course, don't forget, you have to pay if there was overtime. If there's meal penalties, those are on top of the contract. Those aren't included. Maybe they have per diems and other things like that. No problem. Those will be additional amounts in. But if you, what happens is you send that to your payroll company. Your payroll company will combine the two and will give, it should be $150,000 plus, of course, any of those additional things if they get anything. But that's a really little powerful tool that we don't necessarily do in the crew cards, because this is a contract. This is a true contract that they're being paid X number of days. Now, could it have been 5? Sure. Just make sure you put in the number and it will do it properly. It's truly a weekly contract at that point, but that's okay, because maybe something happens with the 6th or 7th day with them, okay? Which the program automatically does as well. And then it actually even tells you that it's broken out. Now, the nice thing is, for example, if for some reason they don't work a full week, you can hit Magic Pay and you can pay them on a third time. So say, for example, we'll do this here, right? We'll take 1 day out, and they only work the 2 days. We'll hit the Magic Pay, and then we can update the contract, but maybe we want to actually pay them out. You can either make another time card. You can say, look, I want to update the paid totals. I still owe them $18,000 for 1 day's worth of work, right? Let's just do it on this time card. That's fine, left to pay. And now it's payout contract, still giving me the total between that time card and this time card of $150,000 plus any additional things. So you can use that function too. Again, that's a lot of stuff I just went over. So again, feel free to contact us. They're also in our video tutorials as well, but that really helps a lot. Of course, don't forget we don't have the actual contract fully in there, so make sure we pick it. It was an F. We'll say it's an F, no overtime for theatrical. Okay, there we go. Now it's in there because they get no overtime. But make sure you put that in there, because any rules now are applicable here. They'll be correct. And I hit Magic Pay, make sure if there's any changes. It didn't, because there was nothing that changed. But yeah, this works pretty much the same way. Worksheet list, card list, everything I've just shown you, the search, the find, the get. You can even duplicate, mass duplication of them if you want to. Although as a general rule, you're only dealing with usually 10 to 20 actors in a particular week. So a lot of times people like to do the one-time card at a time. In the current version, the scale rate is out of date. That's okay. Go to our website. Remember I showed you that they're actually, I guess I didn't show you, but remember, I'll go back to it real quick. Let me see if we've got it. Media services. There is the again, that's under tools, Showbiz software, Showbiz labor guide. You're going to want to go to this labor guide to sign up for free. In fact, the new version of SAG-AFTRA actually literally goes to this. What we've done that's so unique about this is, if you look at the page, instead of making the book that is just such a terrible thing for printing and goes into landfills, and sadly a lot of times they're not even fully paper, they're coated and stuff like that, which is not even really even environmentally safe, because it's got all kinds of extra stuff on it that they can't recycle. Instead of doing that, right, what we did is we wanted to go fully electronic. It's online, and again, payroll customer or not, you're free to use this function. It's on our website, and it's nice because we update it when a new contract is available. We put it available, we make it live, and it's instant. There's no more inserting of paper, trying to get them and try to look at maybe I have my book and I have my extra paper that has the additional new rates. This is all updated constantly. It's usually done every month or whenever the contract is due. So sign up for that and take advantage of that, because it's a free service. Our attitude is you know that going online with all that process is actually making it a lot easier, and use that function that we have in there and save that time and the money exactly as well by using that function. And again, you're going paperless, so we saved a few trees, right? So again, that's instead of using that, go to that other one instead. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot of different facets of SAG, and that's okay. There's a nice thing down bottom. Generally with SAG, they like to know, a lot of times they'll because they're a contracted player, they'll want to know what their overtime was, and they may take it to a separate account. And what you can do is just, fill this out and copy it, and then when you go to the next time card and you make a new time card, hit paste. And then it'll be in there, and now you'll have it all broken out because you may want to break it out. Now, occasionally somebody will ask me, how do you do that with overtime in crew cards? Yes, you can do that in the splitting. Contact me and I'll show you how to do that. Generally, it's not as common in crew cards, but it can be done. But in SAG, it's not too uncommon that when they do get overtime, they do want to have a different account for that. So that's what that there is. And then again, like the other program, like the crew cards program, there is information here. There's a home address. Otherwise, the address up here is the address of the agent or where the check is actually going to. Sometimes with SAG, it is kind of handy to know this, especially for like the final cast list. You can put that information in. Again, it's optional. It's not required. It's up to you if you want to use it. But yeah, that's the SAG program, really. I mean, again, the SAG is very similar to the crew, the way it works. I showed you some of the various changes in there. Just make sure you use those. And again, it's the same functionality that you get used to in crew cards, except again, it's designed for SAG and AFTRA Exhibit A. All right. Let me see if there's any questions about that. Somebody asked about background. It's a possibility. For the longest time, background and extras and stuff like that have been traditionally done by companies that do that, extra processing or extra payroll companies. In fact, we'd have been approached about doing this probably about 12 years ago. The problem is there's a lot of different ways that people do things differently. However, recently, SAG has been approaching us and asking us if maybe we could put background in, and I think we may in version 10. So yeah, there's some hope there. Probably that's all we'll do is just background though. But at least there are like 2 backgrounds that we could possibly do. The biggest problem you're going to run into is that they get night premiums. We do not have night premiums for the rest of SAG. So that is something we would need to add. But yes, no, it is something I think we'll do eventually, maybe in version 10. We're still in version 9 right now. Again, there will be a newer version. As soon as we get the contract ratified, there will be a 9.8 coming out. Again, it'll just have a few fixes, and it'll have the money breaks. But yeah, there's no doubt that we're looking at the possibility of asking about background. So let's see, question. For SAG, does the contract apply over previous weeks? Okay, I pretty much asked you that, right? I answered that for you. Yes, there's the 44, the 48. We have that in there. And again, I kind of showed you, I think we already answered this question now, which was when you break it out by contract, a true contract actually, yes, it does calculate a lot of those things for you. In fact, that's where you see a lot of this weird stuff down here, this less 48, less daily overtime. This is all a lot of crazy calculations, and it does it right. So that's a lot of that stuff that's in there for you that'll help you out. But yeah, a lot of that stuff's already built in there for you. And again, that's based on all that kind of stuff like that. Okay, well, looks like that's all the questions for today, but looks like we've run out of time anyway, so that's okay. Well, I appreciate everybody that came by. Oh, by the way, the backups too, same thing, no different. He will prompt you on Monday as well. So yeah, always make sure you back up your time card. But nevertheless, I appreciate everybody that came by today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact. My information is right here on the screen. Also, any of the sales-related issues, sales-related questions you might have, please contact Stephen Fishman, including about things about our payroll. If you're interested in, using like mobile time cards, the Showbiz Timecards, or things like that, contact us, and we're happy to answer any of the questions you might have. Again, we'll repeat next month. Next month we'll be doing another introductory. Again, this is recorded. Of course, some people that already left early, but you can watch it again if you like to, or go over our individual tutorials as well, or contact us if you have any questions. All right? I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and hope you all have a good week. Thank you.